Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today we're diving headfirst into a question that's been buzzing around, well, everywhere since ChatGPT popped up almost 3 years back.
Right?
Does using artificial intelligence actually make us dumber?
It's the big question, isn't it? Is it this amazing tool for learning, super personalized, or
Yeah.
are we kind of, letting our critical thinking skills slide?
Exactly. There's this real worry, especially as AI gets into, well, everything, schools included, that relying on it too much might weaken those really core human abilities.
It's a serious concern.
So that's what we're here to unpack. For this deep dive, we're zeroing in on a recent study. It came out of MIT,
Hmm.
and then it was discussed, really picked apart actually, in a Science Alert article by Vitomir Kovanovich and Rebecca Marone.
Critical analysis, yeah.
Our mission for you today, basically explore what this research really found, look at the different ways people are reading those findings.
Because there are different interpretations.
Absolutely. And figure out what it all means for how we learn, how we think, now that AI is here. We want to give you the important stuff, the insights, without you feeling totally buried in information.
Get you up to speed quickly.
Okay, let's pull back the curtain on this MIT study then, because, what they found initially sounds pretty worrying.
It does.
The researchers made some strong claims. They talked about AI use leading to, what was it, cognitive debt?
Cognitive debt, yeah,
Yeah.
and a likely decrease in learning skills. Strong words.
Definitely grabs your attention. So how did they even set this up? What was the study like?
Okay, so it ran for about 4 months. They had 54 adults, and the task was to write a series of essays. 3 of them initially,
Right.
and they split the participants. 3 groups. One group used AI ChatGPT specifically.
All right.
Another used a normal search engine, like Google,
Control we're used to.
sort of. And the third group was brain only. No digital tools, just, basic text editing.
Brain only. I like that. But measuring cognitive engagement, that sounds tricky. How on earth do you measure how hard someone's brain is working on an essay?
Yeah, that's the clever bit. They used EEG caps,
Yeah.
to track the electrical buzz in the brain.
Yeah, okay.
Gives you a real-time look at mental effort. And they also did linguistic analysis on the essays themselves, looked at the language used.
So combining brain activity with the actual output.
Exactly. A
Mm.
pretty robust way to try and gauge how deeply people were actually thinking.
All right, so after those first 3 essays, what did they find? What were the main results?
Well, the standout finding from those initial rounds was that the group using AI, their cognitive engagement was significantly lower.
Lower than both the other groups.
Lower than both the search engine group and the brain-only group.
Huh. Anything else?
Yeah, a couple other interesting things. The AI group, they also had a harder time recalling specific quotes from the essays they supposedly wrote.
Seriously, from their own work.
Yeah. And they also reported feeling less ownership over it, like it wasn't really their essay.
Okay, that makes a kind of intuitive sense, I guess. But then things got really interesting, right? They switched things up for a 4th essay.
They did. This role switch is, well, absolutely crucial to the whole debate.
So the AI group had to go brain only, and the brain only group got to use AI.
Exactly. And the search engine group swapped too, though the focus is usually on the AI versus brain-only switch. So what happened? The AI to brain group, the ones who'd been using AI all along, when they had to write just using their brains, they performed worse.
Worse than the others.
Worse. And their cognitive engagement, it was only slightly better than the brain-only group's engagement way back in their very first session.
Wow. So nowhere near how engaged the brain only folks were by their 3rd essay.
Not even close. Dramatically lower engagement compared to that practice brain-only group.
Okay, so that's where this cognitive debt idea comes in. How did the MIT team explain that finding?
They pointed right at that performance drop. They suggested that using AI for a prolonged period meant participants basically built up this cognitive debt.
Like they weren't exercising their thinking muscles.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Their argument was when these folks finally needed to use their brains fully without the AI crutch, they just couldn't perform as well or engage as deeply as the people who'd been doing the mental heavy lifting all along.
But there was a catch, right? A caveat the MIT researchers themselves mentioned.
Yes, and it's important. They were careful to point out that only 18 people actually completed that final 4th session, just 6 in each condition.
Ah, so small numbers for that crucial swap.
Exactly. Which means the findings, especially around the cognitive debt, are really preliminary. They need more testing, larger groups to be sure.
Okay, so that's the MIT study's initial warning shot. But then the Science Alert article authors, Kovanovich and Marone, They came in with a different take.
They really did. And this is where it gets fascinating. They looked at the same results and said, hang on, maybe this doesn't automatically mean AI makes us stupider.
Okay.
They suggested the study's design might be the real reason for those results.
Ah, so not the AI itself, but how the experiment was run. What was their argument? Something about getting used to the task?
Precisely. They brought up the familiarization effect. Their point was, look at the brain-only group. Over those first 3 essays, their brain connectivity changed, the performance got better.
Right, they were practicing.
Exactly. They were getting familiar with the task, writing these essays. They got more efficient, figured out strategy. Kavanovich and Marone argue you'd need the AI to brain group to also do 3 sessions without AI. Then you could see if their engagement eventually caught up to the original brain-only group.
That makes a lot of sense. It frames the results quite differently. What about the other switch, the brain to AI group? Did they use AI effectively?
Yes, and that's another key point from Kavanovich and Marone. That group, the ones who'd done the brain-only work first, they actually used ChatGPT more productively in that final session.
How so?
Well, because they'd already thought deeply about the topic and written about it, they remembered their stuff better. They didn't just ask AI to write the essay for them.
They used it more like a tool.
Exactly, more strategically. They used it mainly to find new bits of information or to refine ideas they already had. It wasn't a replacement for thinking. It was an enhancement after thinking.
That suggests maybe doing the hard cognitive work first actually makes you a better AI user later on.
That's definitely the implication.
Yeah.
Prior deep engagement seems key.
Okay, so let's connect this to the bigger picture then. We have this debate from the study. What does it mean for us, in real life? How does AI fit into learning, assessment, day-to-day thinking? It sounds like it's really about how we use the tool.
That really is the crux of it. And to get a handle on the situation now, Kavanovich and Moroni suggest looking back. Remember when calculators first hit the scene in the 70s?
Oh, yeah. Big panic, right? Teachers thought kids would forget how to do basic arithmetic. My parents worried about it.
Totally. It was a very similar kind of moral panic almost. Concerns that students would become completely reliant, wouldn't learn the fundamentals.
But that's not really what happened, is it?
Not entirely. Educators adapted. What did? They made the exams harder.
Right.
They started expecting students to use calculators for the really complex number crunching. So the cognitive effort shifted, right? Away from rote calculation towards higher level problem solving, understanding the concepts, interpreting the results.
So the bar got raised. Students still had to work hard, maybe even harder, just differently.
Exactly. The bar was significantly raised. Calculators became a necessary tool to tackle more complex problems.
Okay, great analogy. So what's different with AI now? Are we not raising the bar in the same way?
That seems to be the critical difference, according to Kavanovich and Moroni. For the most part, educators and maybe workplaces too, we haven't really raised the bar yet in a way that makes AI necessary to do the required work.
So students are often being asked to do the same kind of tasks as 5, 10 years ago, same essays, same reports.
Pretty much, same tasks, same expected standard of work.
And that's where the danger lies. If the task isn't demanding enough, AI just lets you skip the thinking.
That's exactly the argument about metacognitive laziness. If the task doesn't require deep engagement and AI can produce an acceptable result easily, well, why would you engage deeply?
It's like that calculator example they use, giving someone a calculator for 2 plus 2.
Right. The tool is powerful, but the task is trivial, so you don't engage your brain much. The AI can be detrimental in that specific context, letting students just offload the critical thinking part.
So it's not that AI is inherently making us lazy. It's that we're applying it to tasks that don't stretch us, perhaps.
That's the perspective Kavanovich and Marone push for. They emphasize AI should be used, like calculators were, to help us do things that were maybe impossible before, things that still demand significant brain power from us.
Can you give an example of that? Like, how could we use AI in education but still make sure students are thinking hard?
Sure. They suggest, for instance, teaching students to use AI to generate a really detailed lesson plan. That's the easy part, maybe.
Okay.
But then the real assessment, the part that requires higher order thinking, is an oral examination where the student has to defend that plan, explain the pedagogy, justify the choices, critique the AI's output.
Ah, so you're using the AI output as a starting point for much deeper critical thinking and application.
Exactly. You have to understand it, evaluate it, build on it, or think about, say, a coder using AI to generate boilerplate code, but then needing deep expertise to integrate it, debug it, optimize it for a complex system.
That makes sense. It links back to the MIT study, too, the participants were just using AI to make the same old essays. They just lowered their own effort to meet the existing, maybe kind of low bar.
Precisely. They adjusted their engagement down to meet the expected standard, not up to push their own abilities.
Which, as you said, raises this massive question. What even is critical thinking anymore in a world with AI?
It's a fundamental question we need to grapple with.
Because, I mean, yeah, future generations, we need critical thinking, creativity, problem
Bad.
solving. But AI is changing what those skills actually look like in practice.
Absolutely. Kavanovich and Moroni make the point, just like writing essays with a pen isn't the only way to show critical thinking now.
Right. Or doing long division by hand isn't the only measure of being good at math.
The definition of these essential skills is evolving because the tools are evolving. What it means to know something or think critically about it is shifting.
So if we accept that AI is here to stay and it can be a powerful tool, what's the key to making sure it helps us, not hinders us?
The authors really hammer this home. The key is knowing when, where, and how to use AI effectively. That becomes the crucial skill itself.
So it's about strategic use, being smart about what you offload.
Exactly. Making conscious decisions. Which tasks can I give to the AI to free up my mental energy, reducing that potential cognitive debt for the things that really need my human brain?
Like genuine creativity, complex problem solving, ethical judgment.
Things that AI, at least currently, isn't great at. It's about prioritizing where your unique cognitive effort is most valuable. Strategic offloading, not just lazy offloading.
Got it. So this whole deep dive, it really paints a nuanced picture. AI isn't simply good or bad for our brains.
Not at all. It's a tool, a very powerful one.
And its effect really depends on us how we use it, and crucially, how our education systems, our workplaces, how we adapt to it. It seems less about working harder and more about thinking smarter about how we work and learn.
And maybe raising the bar for ourselves,
Yeah.
expecting more complex outputs when we do use these powerful tools.
Which ultimately circles back to that skill of discernment, doesn't it? Knowing when to lean on AI and when to lean on our own gray matter.
That might just be the most valuable skill of all in the coming years.
So here's something for you to think about as you go about your day. How will you figure out which tasks are right for AI amplification, where it genuinely boosts your intelligence versus where it might just replace your own thinking?
Hmm.
What strategies can you develop personally to make sure you're always pushing your brain, engaging it fully, really mastering knowledge in this new AI era? How might you raise the